Snow fell silently that night, wrapping the small town in a blanket of white. Christmas lights flickered faintly through frosted windows, but for Michael, the warmth of the season was long gone. Ever since his wife passed away 2 years ago, Christmas had become nothing more than a reminder of everything he'd lost. His little red truck rolled down the lonely highway as he drove aimlessly, not heading anywhere in particular, just trying to escape the emptiness of his quiet home. That he turned up the heat, rubbed his cold hands together, and whispered to himself, "Just one more Christmas, then maybe things will be different." But deep down, he didn't believe that. He was a single dad whose son, Noah, had gone to spend Christmas with his grandparents that year, leaving Michael more alone than ever before. Then, through the haze of falling snow and dim streetlights, something caught his eye. Two small figures, barely visible, stood on the side of the road, motionless. He slowed down, squinting through the windshield. As his headlights illuminated the scene, his heart dropped. Two little girls, standing barefoot in the snow. They were wearing thin white nightgowns, holding hands tightly, their heads bowed as if praying or frozen in fear. They couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old. The wind howled around them, but they didn't move. Michael slammed the brakes, his truck sliding slightly before stopping just a few feet away. His pulse pounded as he stepped out, feeling the icy air slice against his skin. "Hey, are you okay?" he called out, but the girls didn't answer. As he got closer, he saw the tears frozen on their pale cheeks. One of them clutched a small stuffed rabbit so tight her knuckles had turned white. The other looked up at him with wide, trembling eyes. "We've been waiting," she whispered, her voice so small it barely reached his ears. "Waiting? For what?" He knelt down, his heart aching as he saw their bare feet buried in snow. "Where are your parents?" he asked softly, but both girls just looked at each other. Then the smaller one finally said, "They told us someone would come get us, but nobody did." For a moment, Michael couldn't speak. He could feel the sting of tears behind his eyes. The snow kept falling, each flake landing silently on their hair. He quickly took off his coat and wrapped it around both of them, scooping them into his arms. "It's okay," he murmured. "You're safe now." Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps spread stories that remind the world what humanity truly means. As he drove them to the nearest police station, Michael tried to get more information. The older twin finally spoke. Her name was Faith, and her sister was Hope. They'd been waiting on that road since morning. Their mother had told them to stay there because she had to go get help, but she never came back. It had been over 8 hours. When they arrived at the small-town police station, the officer on duty looked shocked. "These poor kids," he muttered. They tried contacting any relatives, but no one answered. The girls had no ID, no address, and nothing but each other. The officers said child services would find a place for them by morning. But as Michael prepared to leave, something inside him refused to let go. He looked back at the twins sitting together on a bench, their tiny bodies shivering under thin blankets. Hope rested her head on her sister's shoulder, and Faith whispered softly, "Maybe she's still coming, Hope." Michael's chest tightened painfully. That familiar ache of abandonment. He knew it all too well. The fear, the waiting, the hope that never came. He'd seen it in his own son's eyes after his mother's death. He couldn't walk away. "Can they stay with me tonight?" he asked the officer impulsively. The man looked surprised, but eventually nodded after a few forms were signed. So that night, the single dad who thought his Christmas would be lonely ended up bringing home 2 lost angels. Back at his modest house, Michael made them warm soup, found old pajamas that once belonged to Noah, and set up the spare room. The twins barely spoke, still processing the shock. But as they lay in bed, Faith whispered, "Mister, thank you for stopping." He smiled faintly. "You can call me Michael," he said, tucking them in. When he turned off the light, Hope's small voice broke the silence. "Do you think Santa knows where Mommy went?" Michael froze. He didn't know what to say. He walked out quietly, sat by the living room tree, the same one his late wife used to decorate, and for the first time in years, he prayed. Not for himself, but for 2 little girls who'd already endured too much. The next morning, the twins woke up to the smell of pancakes. Their laughter filled the kitchen, something Michael hadn't heard in a long time. It felt like his empty house suddenly had a heartbeat again. As they ate, Faith noticed a photo of Michael's wife on the shelf. "Is she in heaven?" she asked softly. He nodded. "Yeah, she is." Faith thought for a moment and whispered, "Maybe our mommy is there too." That moment broke him. He turned away to hide his tears, realizing these girls might have lost everything, just like he once did. He decided to call the police again to check on their case. Hours later, the officer called back with news that shattered everyone's hearts. Their mother's body had been found a few miles away. Her car had slid off the icy road into a frozen creek. She'd been trying to find help when she froze to death. Michael couldn't stop shaking when he heard it. The twins were too young to understand what gone really meant. But when he gently told them their mom wouldn't be coming back, Faith simply held her sister close and said, "It's okay. We still have each other." From that day, Michael couldn't let them go. While the system began searching for foster placement, he filled every moment making sure they felt safe. Bedtime stories, warm meals, gentle smiles. Something inside him began to heal too. The empty chair at his table didn't feel as lonely anymore. Weeks passed, and a social worker finally came to take the girls. They clung to Michael, crying and begging not to be separated. Faith whispered through tears, "You said we were safe here." Those words hit him harder than anything he'd ever heard. He knew what he had to do. That night, Michael filled out every adoption form he could find. It wasn't easy. Being a single dad wasn't simple the first time, and doing it again meant more sleepless nights, more responsibility. But when he looked at faith and hope, he saw something pure, a second chance at life, at love, at being the father he was meant to be. Months later, on a bright spring morning, the judge signed the papers. Faith and Hope officially became his daughters. They ran into his arms crying, and Michael whispered, "You'll never be alone again." Christmas came around once more. This time, the tree sparkled brighter than ever. Laughter echoed through the house as 3 stockings hung by the fireplace. One for Michael, one for Faith, and one for Hope. As snow fell outside, the girls ran to the window, pressing their tiny hands against the glass. "Daddy," Hope said, smiling. "It's snowing just like the night you found us." Michael looked at them, tears filling his eyes. "Yeah," he whispered, "but this time, nobody's waiting in the cold." That night, as they sat by the fire, Faith placed the old stuffed rabbit, the one she'd held that freezing night, under the tree. "It's for Mommy," she said. Michael nodded, pulling them close. "She's watching over us," he said softly, "and she's proud." For the first time in years, Michael truly felt Christmas again, not through gifts or lights, but through love reborn from loss. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's remind the world that even in the darkest nights, kindness can light the way. Speech balloon special request. Comment below with faith, hope, and love if you believe that miracles still happen, even when life feels cold and lost. And that night, in a small town wrapped in snow, one single dad and 2 little girls proved that family isn't always the one you're born into. Sometimes, it's the one you find when you least expect it.